I know I have footage for all putting this in here, but this is a nursery bed up here against the house, and you can see it's quite overgrown. What I'm doing in here is I'm just working my way through, cutting out anything that we don't want to keep, and pulling out all of the willows. Remember, we had a bunch of willow stakes that we're trying to save, and so a willow stake like this needs nurseryed out more to get a good root ball underneath it. This one's doing okay, but got to keep that thing wet. And these over here, we're going to take to the Sustainable Homestead Institute for an erosion project. So these, I'm going to wet them down real good before I transport them this evening. And then we'll probably put them in a place where we can water them daily for a couple weeks to really just get those roots going. And then we'll prepare a space near a pond where we're going to basically stop erosion on a hill. Really need a good root ball, because once these go out, the deer will start grazing on them. And so with a good solid root ball, we'll keep that plant growing, and we'll have the minimal amount of what we keep off of it. And remember, these were just sticks. These were just sticks that had sat in a little pond for a while, and I finally got them into pots. And so if we put them someplace, we're going to water them every day for a couple weeks, get a good solid root mass on them, then we can either grow them up to about 3 or 4 feet tall. Actually, ideal would be something about half this size. Half the size of that right there. And we grow them up, and then we would pot them out for erosion project. Now, this didn't look like much before I got into it, but what I'm simply doing is cutting a path, throwing all those materials down on the ground just to let it compost, chop it a little bit, let it compost, and then pulling out the plants that we can use. Anything that's dead, we just chop up and drop on the ground. And then when we find stuff like this is actually an edible green here. And this is, I think, lamb's quarter. It's edible too. I'll just leave those in the pot, and I'll move along looking for the willows. So once I pulled all my willows out of here, I'll see what I've got. I'll wet down the stuff I'm transporting. And then the other stuff that I'm going to nursery, I'll either put it in a different nursery area, because really these could have used more watering. That's some goji right there. These could have used more regular watering. And, you know, the kid's supposed to be helping out with some of the stuff, and they don't always. But a bed like this with regular watering would basically give me more plants I know what to do with. But see, you've got that sage that's giant in there. I'm going to cut back some of that sage and dry some of that to use the sage tea. And I'll thin out this area, and then I see my irises are doing really good. And now that the tops have died on the irises, I'll wait till it gets more brown. I'll actually dig up the tubers, and those tubers will transplant someplace where we can spread them out so that we can have more irises. So I've got willows, irises, goji, pretty much everything in this little bed here. And I simply throw wood chips in the bed, and I throw wood chips around the path, and then I make sure this is a space I can get a hose all up and down the front of the house here. Now, yes, I know it looks overgrown. It does. It really, but I don't have a backyard. If I had a backyard, I'd put this stuff in the backyard. But we have a farm that I'm basically a sharecropper on, and so I'm going to move everything we can to that farm and get it in the ground. Because see, these willows, oh, that's a nice one right there. These willows, once they get growing, we can actually cut and propagate off of them. So if we get them growing real good, and again, I don't with nursery plants, you don't want to have any of these grass and stuff go with you to the next location. You want to just take the plants you want to keep. So I find if I shake them out, take them out. You can shake them out and take them out. Here we go. Again, I just throw it on the ground. So this basically, look at those worms in there. So this basically nurseryed out with proper watering, some real good sunshine, is going to give us a nice strong plant in there. And that nice strong root ball is going to plant out real well to where we're going to do the erosion control. And what we're going to end up with is some coppiced hedge. So yes, this is a little ways from a coppiced hedge, probably about 2 years. But we'll end up with a coppiced hedge that can take deer pressure, and then we'll train long shoots that we can then use for baskets and for different types of crafts, while the roots are holding the soil in place. We'll have multiple rows, and so we'll harvest one row a year while the other rows grow out. which will allow us to maintain some shelter on the hill to keep the deer off the hill, to keep them from eroding the surface. But willows are great for this. I probably got 15 more plants to pull out of here. And then a lot of the green new growth on the sage will get cut so I can hang it in the garage. And we're just going to keep cutting this out.